Now we are talking 1960s Seiko. In this video, I'm going to be showing you in detail a restoration of a really cool and interesting watch from the swinging 60s, made in Japan by Seiko. It has a unusual movement inside it. It's the SEIKO 8306 movement, which was a quality movement. It has a really interesting way in which they design the loom on the watch as well, but I am going to get straight into it. We're talking the swinging 60s and SEIKO. And as we're getting close to this watch, we can see how the design is so 1960s. I mean, it is bonkers. Check out the indices on this thing. I don't even know really how to describe them. They're like little conical bullets, and I think at the bottom there, in the center of the frame, you can see, I think they're stuffed full of tritium, so that when you bought this watch new in May 1967, they would have put a glow onto the rehaul there and then back onto the dial. Anyone know anything about that? Put it in the comments. But this watch is in a bad way. The acrylic crystal, the acrylic there is very badly scratched, as you can see. You can't change the time on it because the motion work is shot through, the keyless works are shot through. The date, likewise, the date change doesn't work at all. But as you can see, the watch is running, so there is hope. It is a SEIKO sea lion, has this nice fetching sea lion engraving on the back. The serial number, you can see there, dates the watch to May 1967 is the best guess on that. The styling on the front would corroborate that. And as you can see, excitingly, it has a SEIKO 8306 movement inside it. Now that is not a very common movement at all. So excited to get in and see what that is all about. And the case number, which is an oversized case for the period, it is 38 millimeters across at a time when watches were normally 34 millimeters across or thereabouts for a man. So yeah, it is a case 1000. So there is a whole host of things wrong with this watch. So let's get it open. And so with the back open now, we can see this not so common movement from SEIKO. And as soon as you open it, you can see that there is quality in this movement. The escape wheel and the fourth wheel have both got capstones on. You can see there, there is a lot of jeweling in this watch, which is, you know, normally a sign of quality. You can also see the issue that I mentioned right at the start, which is the very weak oscillation that we've got here on the balance. You can just see that the amplitude is less than, I don't know, it's probably about 45 degrees or something. So the watch is ticking away, but the amplitude is really poor. And with the dial off, we can have a better look at these hour markers. And as you can see, I was right. We do have tritium in the base of the markers, and that must have been designed to reflect light off the nice chromed rehaut. But alarmingly, the tritium isn't actually in all that good nick, and the tritium in this particular marker there is missing, and in that one. So we also have quite a lot of debris and dust on the dial, and some of that is probably tritium, which is of course radioactive. It does only have a half-life of 12 years, but it is still, you know, not the sort of stuff you really want to snort up your nose. So just going to very carefully now remove the dial, and I will be very careful when I clean it not to put radioactive material all over my bench. And having removed the hands from the dial, I have discovered that the hands themselves have tritium on the back. So it's kind of clear to see here how the illumination using tritium would have worked with this dial, because what they are actually doing is illuminating the dial via the indices, bouncing the light off the rehaut onto the dial, and then and that will show the indices in silhouette, and then also getting a silhouette of the hands on the dial by putting the loom underneath, which is a really, really novel way of doing things. So we have the movement now on a movement stand, and I have lifted off the day wheel. Let me just show you that actually real quick, as they say. Bear with. There we are. There is the day wheel, which has been lifted off, and to expose the main part of the calendar works. Now, immediately when I do this, I have discovered that there is something awry with the day wheel jumper spring. The date wheel jumper spring is actually in here under this plate here. You can just see it poking out there. That is absolutely fine. But the day wheel jumper spring isn't very springy at all. It is this component here. And as you can see, you can kind of move it that way and move it that way, and there is no spring in it whatsoever. So what I'm going to do now is lift off these components here, which will enable me to get down into the calendar works, and also the keyless works, which, if you remember, are also not working as they should, and then have a little look and see what's going on there. So going to do that now. Okay, so time to fault find the issue with the motion work and the quick date change. Now, the key component that is controlling a lot of that is this one here, and we can notice that when we turn that like this, in this position, that should be also turning the minute wheel, because the stem is pulled right out, and this should be engaging with that. But you can see we can turn it a long way and it doesn't do anything, and that is because the inner wheel, and there are actually 3 on this arbor here, has actually been stripped off as most of its teeth. Now, as faults go with a watch, that is not good, and it is not good with a particularly uncommon movement, because what we have to do now is find one of these, which are likely to be like rocking horse shit, for want of a better expression. So that's the challenge. I'm going to show you this a little bit closer in now. You can see the fault with this particular component, and then we're going to go on the hunt and see if we can find one. Okay, so getting in nice and close on this component there, you can see the star-shaped wheel. If I could just get that in focus there, that's the one that's driving the calendar wheel, and the other one at the other end, this side, that is the wheel that engages with
the top end of the clutch. But in the middle, you can see the wheel that is supposed to drive the minute wheel around. Now, if I get that in focus, you can see that the teeth are pretty well stripped off from that. When we've got the new one, if we can get hold of one, I will actually show them together, but that is not at all good. See if I can get in really close. And this is going to be a little bit pixelated, but you know, you can see there that that middle wheel is mashed. So at some point the mechanism has got stuck and somebody has forced it round with the crown. I think that middle wheel is deliberately brass and therefore sacrificial, and it has been completely stripped off. This is not a nice problem to have with a watch with a rare movement, but on we go. Let's crack on.
The thing we need to do is find a part number. Without a part number, we just don't even know what we're looking for. So I have found this PDF on this forum, which purports to have a list of all the components. These are very, very common documents. All the calibers have them. If you can go out on the internet, they're hunting for them. And there it is. And it's a very easily recognizable part. And you can see from the right-hand side there where I'm circling with my arrow, we have a part number. It is 803840. And what would we do without the internet? Because I have no idea how someone would have solved this problem in 1981. Because, you know, how would you find the parts for this particular calendar? It would have taken forever. But right now in 2020, I can click straight to the internet, straight to eBay, and I have found a nice chap in Dijon, in Spain, forgive my appalling pronunciation, for that Walton Willer here, who has sold 6,533 items with 100% positive feedback, so that is good. And here he is selling a whole bunch of stuff for this caliber. In fact, look at this lot. Oh my days, look at this. And somewhere in there is our part. In fact, I wonder if I can find it, just looking at the numbers here. Okay, we probably not got all day for this, but if I just click back here and look, the part that we're looking for is this one here. And he did have it, because guys, just click off that. I have already ordered it. So exciting times. At the time of recording, Spain has been hit with this, as we have in the UK, this horrible COVID-19 virus, the coronavirus. And so I'm just hoping this guy, firstly, that he's fit and well, and secondly, that his lockdown restrictions enable him to get to a post office. But let's hope so. Let's hope that the part gets here and we can crack on with fixing this beautiful 1960s SEIKO watch.
Okay, so there is the SEIKO C-Line M77 completely disassembled. There's all the pieces except for a couple. We are missing the spring for the date wheel jumper spring, and the only thing I'm not looking at there is the barrel, which is here, because I'm going to talk about that now. Because as you can see, in fact, it's getting really close on this, because this barrel is a bit gungy inside. And there is the barrel then, looking very, very dried up inside. If we get in a little bit closer there, you can see. Do you know, I wouldn't be surprised if this had not been serviced, you know, ever. We might well have 50 years worth of sort of dried up grease in there. And the old spring was in pretty good condition actually, but the amplitude was so low on this watch that I decided to play it really safe and put a new spring in, as you can see here. So here is the freshly cleaned out, nice shiny barrel with a brand new spring that's just come out of this package here. It comes in this little retaining ring here, and there is a little bit of a knack to getting it in when you start off. Don't be surprised if, you know, 1 in every 3 pops out. After a while, you get the knack of how to do it. Anyway, we've got that in. Let's get the arbor in and the top of the barrel on, and then we can start putting the watch back together.
And we're going to leave it there for part 1 of this video. So you're going to have to tune into part 2 to see if the part from Spain actually arrived and we got this watch all nicely back together and working and regulated. But for the moment, from Pembroke Dock, I'm leaving you with this image of the ferry coming into the dock on such a lovely, lovely day.